If you want neighbourhood gossip, ask the kids. It even works down Coronation Street. Everyone needs it. For some, it's a nightmare. Find out all about sleep and the lack of it in Nights from Hell. Here tonight on One.
Tonight, will a shocking killing in Christchurch come back to haunt a hospital? Revelations of an attack on another woman. How a supposed sanctuary has become a harvesting ground for Japanese whale hunters. The worrying case of the kidnapped penguin, who may not survive Christmas away from the cold. And a gay old time as Elton John says yes, and a Kiwi's cake is added to his party. Kia ora, good evening. The man already accused of running over a Christchurch sex worker and dumping her body in a river is now facing charges over the abduction of another woman days before. But One News has been told that between the two alleged incidents, the man went to the Hillmorton Psychiatric Hospital for help.
On the day a family buried their daughter, the man accused of murdering, raping and kidnapping the 24-year-old was facing more charges. Those charges relate to an incident involving another woman, an incident which allegedly occurred on the 11th of December, 4 days before the sex worker was found dead in the Avon River. The latest charges, abducting a woman and sexual violation. And One News has been told that after that incident on December the 11th, the man went to Hillmorton Psychiatric Hospital on the outskirts of Christchurch. He told staff what he had done and sought help. Today, Hillmorton Hospital declined to answer any questions, saying the case was still before the courts. So it's unclear how long he stayed or what, if any, treatment he received. One News has been told it was 12 to 24 hours after he left Hillmorton Hospital that the second victim was allegedly kidnapped and murdered. Police say their investigation into that murder is still ongoing and therefore they're unable to comment. They did, however, confirm that an investigation's underway at Hillmorton Hospital. The 28-year-old accused in both cases is in custody. He didn't appear in court today due to a mix-up over when the latest charges were to be laid. He'll reappear on December the 29th. Vicky Wilkinson-Baker, One News.
There's been a dramatic water fight in the Southern Ocean, which has seen Greenpeace take on a Japanese whaling fleet aiming for their biggest catch in 20 years. The Japanese plan to kill 1,000 whales this summer, calling it a scientific program. And they've arrived at their Antarctic harvesting ground, prepared to fight back against the protesters.
The Japanese fleet is armed and ready for battle as Greenpeace challenges its research vessel in the Southern Ocean Whale Sanctuary. The whaling crew holds signs saying science-based lethal research and Greenpeace misleads the public. But Greenpeace say they're not the ones misleading.
This scientific research is not science, it's commercial whaling under the guise of scientific research. We want them to stop whaling, we want them out of the Southern Ocean Sanctuary.
At the International Whaling Commission meeting this year, Japan was condemned for doubling their whale take to nearly 1,000, mainly minke whales.
We think Japan's excuse that it needs to kill hundreds, bordering on 1,000 whales this year to study them is an outrage, and we totally reject it.
The Japan Whaling Association's website says asking Japan to abandon this part of its culture would compare to Australians being asked to stop eating meat pies, Americans being asked to stop eating hamburgers, and the English being asked to go without fish and chips. It also claims a scientific benefit, referring to whales as samples, and publishes a study into feeding ecology of whales, which lists the food found in their stomachs when cut open. 2 Greenpeace vessels plan to spend the next few months obstructing the Japanese fleet.
There's some danger involved for sure. We try to be careful because there's always a chance that something happens. We're obviously very focused with our job here, which is simply preventing the catcher boats from catching whales.
Which they've managed to do. No whales have been harpooned since the protesters arrived on the scene yesterday. Sharon Ferguson, One News.
And while the Japanese are killing whales, dock staff are tonight nervously watching Golden Bay to see if about 100 pilot whales will stay alive. But there's been a grim mission today, burying those that didn't survive a mass stranding on Tuesday.
Daylight revealed the disturbing mortality of Mother Nature.
It was very moving, actually. You know, they're not just like an animal.
Blistered by the sun, the 24 dead were placed side by side under Māori and DOC protocol in a mass grave.
And we're here to support them to send these dead whales on their journey.
Hundreds tried to save the whales yesterday. Only a handful came to say farewell today.
I think what they call it closure. It was, oh, I can't explain it. It was just amazing. We saved so many dolphins yesterday, and we knew some of them didn't survive. And to say goodbye to them in such a nice way with the Maori lady doing the prayer.
How do you feel about being involved? It feels like a tangihanga.
Oh, heck yes. Yes, as soon as I would come around the bay, I started tonguing like as if I'm on the marae. Can't help it, dear. It's like the people on the marae, you know the way to aroha.
Experts now know the pod's elders were sick and came ashore to die.
We could identify those animals right at the beginning, and I don't know why they were in distress, but it seems as though they were the ones that caused the mass stranding.
This area where I'm standing is an urupa or cemetery containing hundreds of whales which have stranded here in the past. The latest grave contains 24.
DOC whale watchers will keep a close eye on the 100 or so survivors. While another stranding was successfully diverted this morning, it's feared other members of the pod are sick, or that the communal creatures will beach again while searching for their dead. Jodie Ihaka, One News.
He might have admitted to charges stemming from stomach-churning abuse of a dog, but a Lower Hutt man wasn't showing much regret today. 29-year-old Uwe Prus even made threatening gestures to the animal's owner, sitting in the courtroom.
Uwe Prus at an earlier court appearance, objecting strongly to being filmed. But today he pleaded guilty to charges of theft of a dog and failing to ensure it received treatment to alleviate pain and stress. The charges relate to Evelyn Weaver's dog, Honey, who was put down in July after suffering horrific injuries, including being shaved and having a hole drilled into her throat.
When he brought her to me, her claws were bleeding. There's pools of blood everywhere, and she could hardly stand up.
Prus is already serving a prison term for burglary, but in court today showed no remorse. When he entered the courtroom, Prus eyeballed pet owners in the public gallery, drew a finger across his throat several times, mouthing threats, until prison guards told him to stop.
Very, very irrational and crazy behaviour, you know.
Prus was originally charged with aggravated cruelty to Honey and to Marina's cat Athena, but struck a plea bargain.
The second cat that went missing came back with a dislocated jaw.
Both women let Prus board with them while he was on bail.
When I think about Honey, I just go into a state of horror. And though he's not pleading guilty to torturing her, it's quite obvious that he did.
Other former housemates are concerned that Prus may have had something to do with injuries to their animals, but he's never faced charges.
And my girl cat, she got locked in the freezer, and his words were, "Your cat jumped in the freezer itself."
Uwe Prus will be sentenced in February next year. Billy Jo Hohepa, One News.
Well, New Zealanders could be in for cheaper power bills if the country's competition watchdog has its way. The Commerce Commission says it intends to take control of the state company Transpower, which owns and operates the national grid. The move would allow the Commerce Commission to lower prices and comes after Transpower announced last month it'd raise its prices by 20%. A final decision on whether the Commission steps in will be made in March. Time is running out for that Christmas shopping, but we've left the last-minute madness until very late this year. New figures show the shopping frenzy has just kicked in this week, and retailers are expecting it to peak on Saturday.
On the third day of Christmas, my true love sent to me.
From the deep south to the Garden City, to the sunny bay to Auckland.
The whole country is alive with late Christmas shoppers.
I always say I'm going to start in June and didn't. You know, the last 3 weeks has been pretty hectic.
Children, the force behind the Christmas rush.
Xbox 360. A doll. Calendar. Shoes. Clothes, makeup, jewellery.
Retailers here say it's been a slow start this year, the Christmas rush only really kicking off this week. But they say they expect Saturday to be one of the busiest shopping days this year.
This week's been real busy. Yesterday was absolutely fantastic.
And shoppers aren't being shy with the plastic.
Compared to last year in terms of both volume and value, we think transactions are around about 5% up on the same period, which means that we're spending more this Christmas.
Pre-Christmas sales obviously tempting those wallets.
Our strategy should be to go early and have the prices real tempting when people are and about shopping in a busy week.
100 EFTPOS transactions per second are expected to be made on Saturday, and retailers say the majority of those using the plastic will be mail.
I'll do it on Saturday.
My wife, she's busy doing it.
Do you think it's got anything to do with being mail?
Yes, very much so. I'll do it on Saturday night.
For some young cuties, only 3 more sleeps until it's all revealed. What have you brought?
I just can't tell people.
Catherine Loft, One News.
And high on the shopping lists of many gardeners might be one particular designer plant. It's certainly proving a hot favourite with thieves on Auckland's North Shore. The problem's so bad that one landscape designer's turned detective in desperation.
It's the great plant robbery. Under the cover of darkness, people steal expensive plants any way they can.
This is where one of the yuccas has just been wrenched straight out of the ground. They've come along, been unsuccessful in grabbing these really quickly, so what they did was they snapped them off.
It's the second time Merrin-Webster's work's been hit since July. All up, around 90 plants have been stolen.
There were 5 yuccas along here. They've all been just lifted, and they were right down here.
Just 1 yucca survived here, and replacements are weedy in contrast.
It does look kind of teeny.
A light-fingered operation feeding a green-fingered black market, and industry rivals are her biggest suspects.
Landscapers do it because they may well have a position that they can go and put the plants in straight away.
But police won't investigate without more information, leaving the building's managers and Merrin to play detective. The property's already under close surveillance. This just one of the many robbers caught on security cam. In less than a minute, any loose yuccas are thrown in the van and the culprit's off, and so far still on the loose.
We can't afford to have somebody standing on the plants 24 hours a day. We do have a security guard who's based in the complex who's around, but he hasn't caught them as yet.
In desperation, they're now turning to microchipping the plants to track down the criminals. And this is how it works. A microchip probe is placed right into the ball of the root. Any substantial movement will activate it, and it can be traced anywhere up to a 40-kilometre radius. The technology is estimated to cost $40 a pop, but with yuccas priced at over $150, it could yet prove worthwhile. Jacobina Plummer, One News.
Britain's most famous gay couple have tied the knot. Sir Elton John and his longtime partner David Furnish joined hundreds of gay couples across England and Wales who took advantage of a new law that lets them formalise their relationships. Europe correspondent Lisa Owen was among the well-wishers at Windsor, near London.
It was the day a Goliath of the music industry said "I do" to his David. The groom and groom arrived at the Guildhall in the shadow of Windsor Castle, looking every bit entertainment royalty. Sir Elton ditching his famously flamboyant couture for matching basic black. The pair, though, positively sparkled, and the music maestro worked the crowd to a crescendo.
They look happy. Yeah, they look happy together.
Then Sir Elton John officially bowed out of life as a singleton. Behind closed doors and in front of just a few friends and family, the couple of more than a decade finally became partners in the eyes of the law. The knot tied, the music and movie makers emerged history makers. All smiles and ready to soak up the congratulations, along with a kiss and a cake made by a Kiwi girl from Napier.
stopped and put his hand on his heart and said, "I'm really touched, thank you so much." So it was incredible.
Then it was off to prepare for the $2.5 million reception. It's being described as the party of the year, and it's happening through there at that enormous white marquee that you can just catch a glimpse of. We would love to take a closer peek, but sadly we're not among the invited guests and security is tight. By nightfall, the quiet country lane near Sir Elton's was bumper to bumper with celebrity sitting ducks, perfect for paparazzi pickings. Among the 700 partygoers, a Beatle, the Osbournes, a hassled-looking Liz Hurley, and of course, the posh one. All reduced to queuing for their champagne, the pink kind, of course. Lisa Owen, One News, Windsor.
Coming up, fears tummy flu is losing its sting. Holding court once again, Saddam Hussein says he was tortured by Americans. And the plight of the penguin, the race to find a baby snatched from his parents.
Later in sport, the NRL's booze culture is exposed again. Plus the Herminator, but not as we know him. And just what are you up to, Titch?